Against an empty carriage at the end of the lonely hall were three imposing ponies, leaning in a disinterested and bored pose. One of them happened to look up as the sorry-looking trio stumbled out into the open. They were on the bottom edge of the Colosseum, with vast rolling hills and plains of Equestria visible far below.
"Hey, boss, we got them worthless Pegasus."
The first one called to an even bigger pony on the other side of the carriage.
"I suppose it's get-to-work time, is it?"
"Cool it, Hotshot. There may be more, too."
No, I was the last student to go."
Scootaloo spoke in sobs. Orion could only hang his head.
It's...
She paused, then breathed deeply, determined to remain as strong as she could.
It's just 3 Aurora's wings. They're broken. She needs help."
"Ain't that just a crying shame it is? What's it to us? All the better she won't come flying back to us no more."
"We have failed our test, but that doesn't mean we're not worth keeping alive,"
Scootaloo shouted in a flash of rage. She was determined to hold on to as much dignity as she could. All right, sheesh. 8 batches. Doctor her up before we head out. I don't want any blood on them seats. I just washed that thing. You other two, in the car." Orion and Scootaloo hopped into the carriage and got as comfortable as they could on the hard seats, but made sure to leave room for Aurora. As soon as the third of the large ponies finished bandaging her wings, Aurora carefully stepped onto the vehicle and lay down on the bench at the back. Scootaloo inched closer to her and leaned down to talk as the door of the carriage slammed shut. The boss pony was inside the back, standing by the door, watching each of them.
"So,
Scootaloo began quietly, trying not to speak too loud.
you're Aurora. I'm Scootaloo. I'm sorry we had to meet like this."
Any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting.
Aurora spoke gently, with sincerity in her eyes.
We did our best. That's all we can say. That's all any of us can say. Who's to say that the city of the deported isn't a good one anyways?
The thought struck Scootaloo as she considered it. No one was ever told about where the Pegasi were brought. Most ponies considered it to be some odd land, like where the zebras hailed from. That made Scootaloo realize something even more profound.
Hey, if where we're taken is where Zecora is from, then there's got to be a way to get back. It's not as if we were banned from Equestria. Fluttershy, an old friend of mine, she's a Pegasus who lives in Ponyville. She's never passed flight school. She never even took her test. They've never come in and taken her away.
Exactly.
Aurora agreed with a nod. Orion overheard and offered his thoughts. "I think the reason we're sent far away is because no pony from Cloudsdale ever wants to admit that someone who failed flight school could come from their city. What a horrible place, now that I think of it. I never want to go back."
Maybe that's why no Pegasus ever comes back. They just don't like Cloudsdale.
"You gosh darn worthless ponies can hardly call yourself Pegasi." The boss spoke from the door. He was swaying ever so slightly as the carriage was lifted and moved to an unknown location. "Useless failures is what you are. No pony comes back from exile, regardless of reason. Can't even pass your test. You 3 make me sick." Scootaloo jumped from her seat, lifted herself into the air with her wings, and dove legs first at Boss.
"You shut the heck up about us. You have no right to treat others like this."
Boss raised a hoof and backhanded Scootaloo out of the air onto the floor. "I can treat you however I want. You hardly classify as ponies to Cloudsdale, or any of Equestria for that matter. Now sit down and shut up until you get to your destination. Where are we being taken anyways? Not like we can tell anyone now, and I'm sure as the deliverers, you guys would know," Orion cautiously reasoned. "Heck if I know. We hand this carriage off to ponies in suits, and we get a bag full of coins to keep quiet about the whole thing. It's how it's always been for 1,000 years." The 3 fillies huddled together again, scared of the unknown. They kept quiet as they waded through an unbearable trip, all lost in their own thoughts. Friends, family, loved ones, and pets. All will never see them again, and some would never find out why. An hour passed, and then another. Finally, the uncomfortable quiet was broken by a sudden lurch as the carriage stopped in its flight. "Ah," Boss smiled. "There's my stop. You ponies very nice now. Have fun whatever heck you're sent to." The carriage door shuffled open, and Boss hopped out with a gust of cold wind. It was night outside now, with hardly any light to see at all. Scootaloo stared outside, and noticed another figure was staring in. It was dressed in a dark black suit, its tail tied in an unnatural black that never occurred in nature. Its face was covered by dark, loose-fitting mask, concealing its mane. All that was visible were rose-colored eyes, staring indifferently at the 3 ponies inside. They stopped on Scootaloo momentarily, unrecognizing, but she stared back. A second passed. The dark pony slammed the door shut, and the carriage took off once again.
At least we can talk now.
Aurora whispered in the dark, but they had nothing to talk about.